Today, on the premiere episode of Dr. Phil, a pregnant woman thrust into the spotlight
I had to carry my baby to bury my baby.
after a devastating diagnosis.
Speaking out for the first time since she had a legal abortion.
The attachment kept growing day by day.
It's not a human life. Why do you have to kill it? Nothing you could justify to say that she should have to carry it to bury it.
I get really nervous when the government gets into people's personal lives. What a wonderful couple.
Certainly, Dr. Phil, they're salt of the earth American citizens who, because of what's happening in our country, found themselves in just a God-awful predicament. After the Supreme Court ruled in Dobbs v. Jackson, overturning the long-established precedent of Roe v. Wade, Louisiana was one of the first states to immediately institute draconian laws that said, Holly, no matter what the situation is, a woman cannot choose to get an abortion, even if the doctors told her that there was 99.9% chance that her baby would die in minutes after it came through her womb. And I understand, Dr. Phil, you're a mental health expert. I cannot imagine the mental anguish of a woman who has to deliver a baby that she sees come out of her, and then they pronounce it dead.
Nancy, even though they told you and Shedric that you should terminate this pregnancy, they refused to do it out of fear of prosecution for violating Louisiana law. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
What did they say?
Yes, sir. Well, they basically told us that because of the overturning of the Roe versus Wade, that they were not able to do it. Therefore, we had been denied for the medical procedure and that we would have to travel out of state.
This was a wanted pregnancy. You have 3 other children.
Yes, sir.
You guys wanted a 4th. What was that 6 weeks like for you and for Shedric, but particularly for you having to carry on with this pregnancy for 6 additional weeks?
It was extremely traumatizing. It was mentally draining in all aspects. It was physically draining, emotionally draining. Very, very emotionally draining.
I know that you probably have feelings about this going into it. I'm sure you do, those of you at home and those of you here. I just ask everyone to really have an open mind and open heart about this. And I always encourage people to approach these things, even though you have some feelings about it, with some authentic curiosity. If you can really try and understand why the other side feels the way they do, at the same time you try to get them to understand the way you feel the way you do, then there's a chance to have some empathy and understanding for each other's side instead of demonizing each side, because that's not going to get us anywhere. So, Christian, I'll ask you, do you believe in Nancy's case? And if a Louisiana doctor was to perform the abortion, then should they be protected from prosecution?
Dr. Phil, I absolutely believe that they should be protected from prosecution. Part of their role as providers is provide the best care for their patients and to look out for their best interests. And so as Nancy went and was looking, and she clearly said it, that she lost trust into the system in Louisiana because of the experiences she had. So therefore, doctors should not have to be feeling like they're going to lose their license if they're going to administer a human right, which is part of abortion care and reproductive care.
And I can tell you that the senator was talking about a provision that didn't list acrania as one of the conditions, but effective August 1st of 22, Chapter 4, medically futile pregnancy conditions, the number 25, a profound and irremediable congenital or chromosomal anomaly existing in the unborn child that is incompatible with sustaining life after birth in reasonable medical judgment is certified by 2 physicians that are licensed in the state of Louisiana. That is, although acrania is not listed, that is the provision that covered this in that circumstance, right, Senator?
Yeah, yes, it is. And I don't want to take credit for it. I did not add it. I sought to decriminalize women in amending the 2006 statute, but it does cover it. I don't concur, though, with anyone that says the law is ambiguous because you just read it.
Now, Lila, what do you think? You don't think Nancy should have been able to have an abortion?
I mean, Nancy, my heart broke when I heard your story because that's the worst thing any mom wants to hear is that their baby is going to die. Their baby has a life-threatening illness. My husband and I, we had a miscarriage about 2 years ago. They were some of the darkest days of my life. And they were dark days because it was our child. You know, we knew this was a baby. And I think that's the fundamental point here is that we're talking about a baby. We're talking about a human life. And the pro-life position is that all humans have human rights. And the first right is life, to not be killed. You know, from the moment of fertilization until natural death. And so, you know, Nancy, you deserve better. You deserve better health care. There's perinatal hospice, there's palliative care, so that your baby could die in the loving arms of their parents instead of at the abortionist tools.
Okay, I've got some questions for you about that, and we've got to take a break, and then Ben has an important point to make. Coming up, should the government dictate what a woman can do with her body? That's a big question. And when does life begin? And you define that as at the point of fertilization, right?
Well, that's science. It's not my opinion. The science is clear when human life begins at the moment of fertilization.
Well,
and
that's the
all
question.
humans have human rights is our
That's
position.
the question I've got for you.
Dr. Caitlin Bernard, a local OBGYN physician, performed an abortion on a 10-year-old girl who was a victim of rape. The girl traveled from Ohio, where most abortions are illegal.
How concerned are physicians now about potentially being in legal jeopardy?
Well, they're incredibly concerned.
Ohio is one of at least 9 states which make no exceptions for rape or incest. In Indiana, abortions are still legal up to 22 weeks.
Should a 10-year-old rape survivor be able to get an abortion? Now, pro-choice advocate Christian Nunez says absolutely, yet pro-life advocate Lila Rose says the fetus is not the guilty party. Those are 2 very strong opinions. I see a lot of my audience wiggling in their chairs. If you've got something to say, raise your hand.
Great, I do. I have lots to say, actually, a ton to say, actually.
Okay.
I would say, though, in this particular case with Nancy, who I feel absolutely terrible for, Lila, I really feel like your views, you just want to legislate evil. That's really how it feels when I hear you speak, especially when you're talking about a 10-year-old girl who was raped. I'm sorry. And to hear you say that, you know, they should just have it anyway is disgusting. I really think you're a traitor to your own. And I will never be able to agree with you. There's nothing you could justify to say that she should have to carry it to bury it. There is nothing you could possibly say to justify that level of lack of empathy. And that's the problem I feel like in this country at the moment. We were founded on the lack of empathy, and we've just kept up with that tradition. If you have no empathy.
Abortion is devastating to women's mental health. No one talks about that. The year after a woman has an abortion,
it's really like
the year after a woman
have to have the child. What kind of trauma is
the
that
trauma
you're
is from the
inducing on
rape.
somebody?
The trauma is from the rape. The child's an innocent party there.
The child isn't born yet. It's not there.
We should not take out generational sin on a child to say there's generational sin and that dad was an abuser, so the child should be killed. That's not fair to the child.
We're talking about rights, and he just said a right has been taken away from us. And what is next?
I want to address that because our fundamental human right that we all share in this room is life. It's the first human right. Laws are meant to protect the weak. In a society, who's the weakest? Who's the weakest in the society? A child.
The poorest.
They don't have a voice. They can't speak. A child in the room,
That's
or
weak.
a poor child would be the weakest.
Them that way by
and a child with disability. Listen,
kids.
whether you live 10 minutes or 10 years or 100 years, you're a human life, and you have the right to not be killed. And that's what the pro-life fight is all about. That's what we're fighting for, a culture of life where we provide real health care. You know, abortion is the intentional destruction of an innocent human life.
Doesn't a
We
woman
can
have
do
a
better
right
than
to
that.
choose that for
A right
herself?
to choose what?
What
A right to choose
doesn't
what?
a woman
What
have a
does an
right
abortion
to
do?
choose what happens to her body?
But what's in her body? There's another
You
life
know,
we're talking about. Let's acknowledge the science.
And I would defer
Let's acknowledge
to
the
Christian and the experts,
When do you
but I
think
will
human
say
life
this:
begins?
you can't just be pro-fetus and not pro-life,
We're
because
both.
a lot of
we're
times what we
we're
see.
pro-human beings.
No,
We're
but
pro-human beings.
After,
And women
after
deserve
a lot
better
of
than
these
abortion.
children are born, all
deserve
those
better.
legislators who vote for pro-life when the baby's inside the woman, then do nothing to vote to help them with health care, after-school care, you know, daycare, all these things, especially in marginalized communities.
In the back row, in the middle.
I'm Corinne. You say you're pro-life, but banning abortion hurts so many more people in the long run. So many more people. If you were really pro-life, you would be caring about these long-term ripple effects, about the 10, 12-year-olds that get raped and they could possibly die because their body isn't developed yet, the babies that come out and could be severely underdeveloped, me who gets raped. You know, why is it that you're telling me that I can only get an abortion if I get raped? You're telling me that I only get to have a choice over my body if I get violated. How is that fair?
What we do is we fight for all lives. That's what the pro-life movement is actually about. It is a civil right. We have to defend all life. All life is protected from the moment of conception. That happens when a sperm and an egg meet. There's a little spark of life that happens.
Anybody else? Yes, sir, in the back, right here. Go ahead, sir.
Hi. What is troubling me is the idea of government-mandated pregnancy.
Can I respond to that?
That's in the end, that's what's happening.
No one is forcing anyone to get pregnant.
Motherhood
No
is
one is
slavery.
forcing every.
No.
Can I respond to that?
I get really nervous when the government gets into people's personal lives. I've said that when people come in and say, you know, we have problems deciding the custody of our kids, so we're going to go to court. And I go, oh, you don't want to do that. You would be much smarter to sit down and work this out between yourselves, because you have no idea what the court may do or not do. You don't want the government in your lives. And I really don't think the government needs to be telling people what they should do with their bodies. We're out of time. Don't worry. This is just too important. So let me say goodbye for now. I want to thank Nancy and Shedric for sharing their story. I've said it before, but Nancy and Shedric, I'm so sorry for your loss. I hate that. I hate that you had to go through that, and I thank you for your courage to come here and talk about this today. And I want to thank all of my guests. A special thanks to my good friend, civil rights attorney Ben Crump, President of the National Organization for Women, Christian Nunez, and President of Live Action, Lila Rose. Thank you for being here. There's so much more to talk about, and we will just have to do this in another hour of conversation that you will see very soon.
Devastating diagnosis.
I had to carry my baby to bury my baby.
Speaking out for the first time since she had a legal abortion.
The attachment kept growing.
It's not a human life. Why do you have to kill it?
Nothing you could justify to say that she should have to carry it to bury it.
A Dr. Phil exclusive.
Check your local listings.
Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.